Welcome, fellow business brokers, to Let's Chat, the show where we talk to some of the best industry experts, including CPAs, attorneys, SBA lenders, and obviously some of the best intermediaries around the country. My name is Jim Parker. I specialize in selling businesses that have gross sales between 1 million and 10 million. I'm really excited because today we're going to be talking to a friend of mine, Kyle Griffith. He's with NYBB. And he's a very prestigious, well-known, very respected, and very knowledgeable business intermediary up in the New York area. And he's also the former chairman of the International Business Brokers Association. How you doing, Kyle?
Jim, I'm doing fantastic, man. I feel very humbled. I feel enlightened. I feel it's been a long time coming. Thank you so much for having me on your program. You're doing a great job. Been awesome, having you on the board, working together with you as intermediary and sharing best practices. So I'm looking forward to our chat today, my friend.
I am too, Kyle. I got to tell you, I have so much respect for you as a fellow intermediary, and also you did a fantastic job as the chairman of the International Business Brokers Association. Just a fantastic job, and I feel honored to serve on the board with you during your tenure, and I'm looking forward to serving on it this year as well. So
yeah,
hey, so why don't we start off?
Thank you, appreciate that.
So, why don't we start off, touch base a little bit about the IBBA. I would imagine most people out there are familiar with the IBBA, but for those brokers that are not familiar with the IBBA, maybe you can give a brief overview of what it's all about.
Yeah, sure. Most definitely, Jim. So, when I first got involved in business brokerage, I wanted to find where I can go to get education, where to learn the craft. And IBBA is the number one go-to resource for education on selling companies and representing sellers, business owners on the sale of their business. So I just learned so much as an intermediary, and I'm just so thankful for all the other brokers before us that's willing to share as facilitators, teaching classes, workshops, learning best practices. So when it comes to the IBBA, we have different core values as an organization, and one of our values is providing education to brokers, as well as creating engagement, creating opportunities like our conferences where we get together annually once a year. The last conference we had this past year was our largest conference ever. About 900 attendees there, which is super fantastic. And just creating more awareness. We want to know when someone wants to sell their business, they know that they have to call in a business broker, especially one that's certified as a CBI. So just creating more awareness for the industry as a whole.
I got to say, Kyle, there was almost 900 people there at that conference. It was pretty impressive. I want to be honest now, because you and I both had to speak in front of all 900 people. How did you feel about doing that, honestly?
I felt great. It wasn't about me. It's about, when I walked on stage, I put myself in the shoes of folks that are actually there. So I put myself, like, if it was me, what we want to expect. We have a lot of new brokers into the industry. I just felt really good because I feel I finally get a chance to really give back. That's why I volunteer my time for this organization, because a lot of folks like yourselves and many others poured into me, had a lot of mentors along the way. And I felt that when I walked in on that stage, man, it's my time to give back. And I wanted to acknowledge, we have a lot of folks that are doing some great work. A lot of awards were shared. So I just want to give back, make it about the organization, make it about the community and membership. So I felt good, in my role. So thank you for that.
Kyle, that's fantastic. You were phenomenal. To me, it was the first 30 seconds I was up there, just seeing a sea of people. That was a lot. That was a lot of people to be looking out over. But then I calmed down because it's just like you said, it's giving back, but it's also there's so many people in the audience that are I look at as friends, and so it's not as intimidating when you start looking in that light. So, what do you think are the best things about the IBBA? That a business broker can take from the IBBA?
Well, when I look at what we do as professionals, it's just education is just one aspect, right? You could go get your driver's license and still be the worst driver in the world. Like, you need on-the-job training, you need advice and mentorship along the way. So we have our ambassador program to help new brokers that are getting involved in the business, to at least guide them through IBBA and what we have and help them get started. So, you know, I like on-the-job training, man. I want to be there in the mix. I like to hear the war stories. We all have stories about deals going bad and deals that went great. Just learning, because that learning advances your success. And this, you still have to go through those issues yourself as a broker. Every deal is different. There's a saying in our business: the deal dies at least, if it don't die at least 9 times, right? It's not going to close, right? There's always something that's going to come up. So just hearing those stories, some other brokers, kind of reassures you that, hey, you're not the only one that's going through this. Other brokers are. This is just part of the process. So I think for me is connect with folks like yourselves. I mean, you've been doing this for a long time and been holding the flag there in Florida as a previous chair for the Florida Business Brokers Association. Learning from yourself. And if I start calling one name, Jim, I'm going to
I know you mean. I know.
It's many people that's poured into me and poured into the organization. So I think the education is the foundation, but, you know, networking with your peers and just understanding how the mechanics of deals work and what's happening in each folks, you know, respective marketplaces.
I think the education that the IBBA offers is heads and shoulders above any other kind of education out there. It's just incredible. You know, the classes that they have, the workshops. You know, you go to these conferences and you go to all the workshops and classes. And you walk out and your head's kind of spinning because you know. And I've been doing this for 20 some years. You've been doing it a long time, but you always just continue to learn and learn and learn. But I agree with you. I think one of the greatest things is not just the education part, but, you know, sitting there mingling with business brokers from all over the world and sitting down and talking to them outside of the classes and the workshops. And, you know, hey, what are you doing this working? What are you seeing? What are the market trends? And it's amazing how much brokers are willing to share with each other. I can't imagine that most industries are like our industry, where we really share with each other and we kind of elevate and try to take the whole industry to another level. And like you said, there's so many great people out there that contribute. And you're right, you can't name one person because you feel like you're going to forget somebody out. But there's so many.
Jim, I have to give one name though, because this one person is one that really shine a light on me, shine a light on the industry, and gave me some great insight. So I have to give my tribute to one person. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us, but he has poured into many. He has mentored many brokers in this industry, and we did do a tribute to him at the conference. I'm talking about, as you know, Tom West. So I'm thankful I got a chance to meet him, learn from him, and he kind of set me in the right direction and gave me some advice when I first started. So I'll just mention one name, and you know, they have done a lot for the industry.
Yeah, and Tom West is a legend in the industry. He really is, and you know, if you don't know his name, then you haven't been practicing as an intermediary for very long. He was great. You know, he did so much for our industry, and it's so great that his son Ron West is carrying on the torch. I think Ron's been doing a fantastic job. You know, I got to tell you, Kyle,
Ron is spectacular.
The only regret that I have about joining the IBBA is that I didn't join much earlier in my career. If I could rewind it, I would have joined the IBBA from day one. So.
You know, I kind of thought about that too, Jim, and I didn't join right away myself, but I feel like, so okay, can I be a little bit hypocritical here?
Yeah, I want to hear.
So if you want the education, like you have to, like you want to get the education right away, right? If you want to learn your craft, you got to jump all in. But I feel everyone has a different story to tell. Everyone comes from different backgrounds, and have different life experiences. So I feel that at the time when I joined, I was totally ready to consume the information. You know, like I had some deals under my belt, I had some experience, I had some exposure. So by the time I jumped in, I was all in. And you hear stories of some folks. Sometimes you have to take a refresher because you took a class, but you weren't working any deals at the time. Like this is all like foreign to you, and now that you're working a deal, you want to go back and take the class again just to get a refresher. So I feel everyone has their own story and everyone joins at the right time that was meant for them. So I think both of us had a similar path where we didn't join right away. But that's you know, I joined a few years after I got into the business.
Yeah, right, right. You can't really have regrets. You're right. Paths take you where the paths take you. But those of you that are listening that are, newer business brokers, join as soon as you possibly can, because
Yes.
it really does take you to a completely different level. The most valuable asset that we have as business intermediaries is our knowledge. I mean, that's our biggest asset. And the more knowledgeable you are, the more valuable you become to your sellers and buyers. And and it's never ending. I mean, it's really never ending. I mean, I still learn, and I'm sure you do too, and everybody in our
Yes.
industry still learns. So you've been very successful in your practice up in New York. What do you attribute? What are some things that you attribute to your success that hopefully will give some guidance to our fellow business brokers?
So, I always like to look at the mental aspect of things, because there's many folks that are good at swinging a golf club, but when it comes down to getting that puck, getting that ball in the holes, like, it's more of a mindset and mental. So, you have to have some resilience and some staying power, right?
Hmm.
One advice I can share for your audience that are newer in the business: you have to have patience in this business. It does take time to learn your craft, to build a reputation, to build up relationships. It does take some time, and you want to give yourself, like when I first got in, one of um, what was shared with me, you want to have some money put away so you can be able to sustain, right? You're not going to sell a deal out the gate. I
Right.
can remember when I first started my company, there was another intermediary at the firm, and he joined maybe a few months before I did, and I guess it wasn't working out for him. He wasn't getting immediate success, and when he left, I was like, okay. So I took over some of the deals that he was working on, and actually I closed some of his deals. And it kind of just reminds me of a story that what is it called, 50 feet from goal. I'm probably screwing it up, right? It's a story of this miner in Africa that pretty much sold all of his land. He thought he had gold in his land, but apparently to him wasn't there, and he sold his land, and he actually had gold there. And if he had taken his time to dig a little bit deeper, he would have been pretty wealthy. So the moral to the story is, have patience. This is not an instant gratification business. There are some cases where you get deals done pretty quickly. We have sold deals. Our quickest deal is 4 weeks to get a deal done, but typically it's going to take at least about 9 months. I know, Jim,
Yeah.
you're a little bit faster than us here in New York. I know Florida, you have more of a better MLS system. You can get deals done quicker. But I
That's
think
probably
one of
about
the
the
key
average in
points I
Florida.
would say
That's probably about
about the
average in
same.
Florida, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say number one is having resilience and then being consistent, right? Whatever you're doing
Hmm.
is have a methodology to it. Follow your process, and then be resilient, and just keep going.
Right, right, right.
It took
You're
me it
talking
took me a
about
year and a half, Jim. It took me over a year to sell my first deal.
you pay. I'm glad you brought that up, because that's. I think you're the first person that I've talked to that said patience is a key thing, and I think it is. There was a broker. Well, he wasn't a broker at the time. He was an SBA lender here in Florida, in Central Florida. Very well known SBA lender, very good at what he did, and he quit becoming an SBA lender to become a business broker. And I ran into him in a meeting, and I'm like, hey, and I don't want to say his name, but I said, hey, how's it going? And he goes, oh, it's going great. I'm really excited. Da, 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 da. I just, I always thought what you guys did was interesting. Fast forward about 6 months later, I ran into him again. I'm like, so how's it going? Are you enjoying business brokerage? He goes, I'm enjoying it, but I'm not making any money. He goes, I'm just not. And I'm like, just got to hang in there. It takes a long time to, clear the land and, plant the seeds, and you're going to harvest it down the road, whatever. And he was just like, oh. And then I ran into him like a year and a half after he got into the industry. And he's like, things are a little bit better, but not great. My wife's telling me maybe I should go back to being an SBA lender, and da 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 da. Fast forward 3 years, he was the number one producer in all of Central Florida. He killed it,
Wow.
and that's what it is. It's I think a new person getting into this industry, they think that they're going to get into this industry and be successful the first year. It's very hard to do. It's a long period of time to get up to speed, and so.
Yeah, I mean, everyone has, there's a great book by Malcolm Gladwell called Tipping Point, right? Where it takes, 10,000 hours to perfect any craft. And in our business, there's a lot of transferable skills. There are people, and we have some folks that we know that are new to the industry, and then they've had like almost like immediate success. But you can't look at someone's immediate success and think that you're going to have the same success. You don't know how many hours they have put in business, right?
Mm-hmm.
To be where they're at. And then another thing I look at too, Jim, is that people are watching you, right? Right? Your professionals, your attorneys, your CPAs, your financial planners, those that would potentially be your referral sources. So you now started this new gig as a business broker, intermediary, M&A advisor, and they want to see your progress. They want to see, how, is this going to be like a moonlight for you? Has been doing this, part time, or you're going to be moving to another gig, or they want to see a success, right? They want to, so you have to really have some staying power. Because I remember when I first got involved, when I first got into the business, I wasn't getting much referrals. All the business that came into me was from me actively going out, knocking on doors. I mean, the very first deal I took, I mean, I'm in New York City, man. I got, hundreds of thousands of business here in New York. My very first engagement, Jim, was in the Catskills.
Really?
I listed a pizzeria. I'm like, why am I listening to pizza? I was just going bonkers, man. I was working almost anything, but it was just from my direct efforts. And after a period of time, when people start seeing my referrals, at that time, my potential referral sources start seeing, okay, well, this Kyle, he's serious. Like he's really doing this. He's really all in this industry and his craft. Then the referrals started coming in, started getting the crappy ones at first, and then had to, explain to them, hey, this is what I'm looking for, and had to educate my referral sources. So I would say you have to keep at it. You can't, can I curse on the show?
No.
You can't half-ass it. You can't
Yeah.
half-ass it, right? You have to be all in. This is what you do day in, day out.
Right. It's funny you said the pizza shop because it's kind of a joke here in Florida that I don't know if it's the rest of the country that you're not a business intermediary really until you sell a pizza shop. That's like your initiation into the industry. I think everybody starting out,
Yeah.
that's one of their first things. You said that thing about competing. Not competing, but like not trying to compare yourself to other brokers and things like that. And I think that's a very important thing. And if you made an analogy earlier that related to golf, and I want to go back to that analogy for what you were talking about not competing. It's like when I go golfing, I'm not feeling like I'm competing against anybody else in my foursome. I feel like I'm competing against myself, trying to improve myself and get my best score. And that's the same way you have to look at this industry. Everybody is different. Everybody starts out at a different pace, and some keep improving, some stay where they're at. But so I thought that was a really good analogy. So where are you most
Yeah,
of your
and
leads? Oh, go ahead. I'm
go ahead,
sorry,
Jim.
Kyle. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna. I mean, with me, I mean, why I personally got into this? Like, I didn't have the resources. I didn't have the connections, the mentors. I didn't have, So like, I was an entrepreneur, right? I was already involved in business, but I wasn't at the level like I really wanted to be at. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I also use this as a learning tool because I wanted to learn how to grow my existing business. Right. I want to learn how to value a business. I want to get into the mindset of a business person, of an entrepreneur, of a successful entrepreneur that had their business for 30, 40 years and what they have done to make the business successful. So to be transparent, when I first got into this business, I just wanted to learn business. I wanted to learn from other business owners, and I wanted to learn from their mistakes. I didn't want to make the
Mm-hmm.
same mistakes. And I was also thinking, all these businesses are looking at, maybe I get a chance to buy a business myself. So that's my initial venture into the marketplace. I'm just an avid learner. Like in my office, I got tons of books. In my house, I'm always reading, trying to, better myself. And So for me, it was like, I had to take a step back to really learn the business. And that's when I joined the IBBA and got support from you and many others and so on. So someone like me, it took a little bit longer. Maybe that's someone else's story as well, where most of the folks that enter, this career, this is either second or third career for them, right?
Yep.
So, what transferable skills do you have to make you successful? It's all the same thing. It's you have a service, there's a need for your service. You have to put the right messaging out to attract the right types of companies you want to work with. You have to vet those companies and make sure they fit within the scope of services you want to provide. We could talk a lot about due diligence and how deals die, and by doing more upfront work, right, you can minimize that risk and have shorter cycles and better paydays in the tail end. So it's always ongoing education all the time.
You think the education was the cornerstone for you to take it to the next level? Then you think that, like, if you had to nail it down to one thing, you think education was the number one thing that kind of took you to the next level?
So it's all part of a puzzle, because you have to put in the work. You know what I mean? Like, you
Right.
can read 1,000 books and be a scholar, but what have you done? Like, what are you doing, right? So it's like, I look at education as a piece of the puzzle. So you have education, you have engagement with other brokers like yourself and the many other members we have in the IBBA. So learning best practices. You have a deal, you're stuck in a deal. Who can you call to help you in that deal? Having local meetings. It's all like part of one. It's all part of the piece. Education gives you the fundamentals.
Yeah.
Having folks like yourself can accelerate your success. Having people that have been there, done that, you can call upon to get some advice. So I look at it as all part of the. That's why for the
You're right.
CBI exam, that's why we made a requirement that you actually have closed some transactions, because anyone could not, well, most people can just go take a test and pass it, right? Which is good. You've qualified. You know the work, like you know the academics behind it, but actually getting deals done, that takes your craft and your profession to the next level.
Yeah, yeah. It's the puzzle is a good analogy, or maybe even stairs, certain steps. I had, I was lucky enough to have a mentor, Bert Risden. He's now been doing it for 56 years. So he's still doing it. He's been doing it for 56 years. Bert Risden here in Florida. And I can't believe you started out with a mentor. But I think you're right. It's just a combination of a lot of things you got to pull together. Obviously the education. I think mentorship is critical, and I love what you said about seeking advice and help from other people. I do what you do, is I reach out to professionals like yourself and say, hey, Kyle, got this weird thing going on with this transaction. Have you ever experienced it? Da, 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 da. And getting that input from other seasoned professionals, even if you're seasoned yourself, it helps a lot. So having that, it's not just, it's building that network around where you can call on, you know, other professionals that you respect. And so, I
Yeah,
appreciate everything that you've done for me
yeah,
over the,
100%.
over the
Thank you.
last couple of years.
Same here.
So where do you get most of your leads at this point? Listing leads.
So referrals.
Yep.
we, we,
I
we had
knew
a,
you were going to say
we,
that.
we go back and forth on this, on should we market direct to business owners, should we go straight to referral sources. At the end of the year, we always look back, we do our audit just to see where all our deals, where they came from, and like they come from financial planners, attorneys, and CPAs primarily.
Mhm.
And then we have other referral sources as well. But you think about it, right? you know there's some surveys that you can review, and there's a lot of surveys on this. But if you put yourself in the mindset of a business owner that's thinking about selling their business and they need some advice, if you're running a company, who are you going to go to first? You're going to go to your trusted advisor. You're going to go to your
Yep.
board. You're going to go to your partners, your spouse, right? Yes, you're going to speak with your attorney. You're going to speak with the CPA. Hey, John, Mary, I think the time has come. I've reached a point where I want to retire. Who do you know that can help me sell the business? So having a good bench of what I call the top 25 referral partners is great. Now there are some there's different schools of thought in this though, Jim, right? So some business owners may not want to disclose right away. They may want to do some research, right? So they're thinking about selling their business. They're going to go online and Google, okay, I need a business broker. Find me a business broker. Do some research in the process. Who has sold businesses like mine? Who has a track record? Who's someone that's local in my area? So they're going to search online as well. It's important to have a great website that's findable, good SEO. You can run some ads, pay-per-click ads, and so on. So I think is a healthy balance. Even some of the deals we work on, even though we are referred in, they're still like if the attorney say, "Hey, go speak with Kyle at the NYBB group," they're going to put my name in Google and look you up.
Right.
So, there's a saying you want to have like at least seven lead generation sources, right? So, you want to have a good website, for SEO, digital marketing, referral sources. I would start with those two, and then happy to discuss other avenues. But referrals would be number 100%.
Yeah, and I agree. I think I go to the conferences and I talk to new business intermediaries will come up to me and they'll say, "Hey, how do you go for listing leads?" And I think everybody's looking for that magic bullet, and there's no magic bullet. Like you said, you have to do some marketing and advertising. You got to put that stuff out there. And I totally agree with you, by the way, Kyle, when you said you have to have an internet presence, even if you're getting those referral sources, because that's how I look at it is, somebody that they trust and like and they respect refers you, they're still going to be Googling and looking you up, and you have to have an internet presence so that they get reassured on that. But I think referrals is, by far the best leads that come in, best quality leads that come in, and and I think that anybody that's in this industry that's been doing it for any good period of time that's successful, they're getting probably the majority of their leads from referrals. And I think what we forget too in that is that every time we do a transaction, that's a whole set of potential referral partners that you can have in the future. Obviously you got the seller, you got the buyer involved in that situation. You might have two attorneys, you might have two CPAs. I mean, and it kind of snowballs. So every transaction that you do a good job and you're honest and you're trustworthy and everybody thinks you're knowledgeable, it just kind of snowballs over time. And I think that's another reason why it's hard. It's easier as you get more experience because you've done more transactions. Obviously, you get to know more, but you also have done more transactions where people know and respect you and they want to refer more work on to you.
Yeah, I want to add two little takeaways here that your audience can. Two things that work very well. Another reason to have phenomenal referral sources. Number one, the last two deals we brought in, well, not last, a lot of them came from referrals, but I'm talking about the last two most recent ones. They actually helped us in actually getting engagement. One was from a financial advisor for a HVAC company, does about 18 million. And our meeting with the client was at the financial advisor's office. And the client told us, "Hey, I'm not going to mention my advisor's name, but hey, so-and-so recommended you guys. I trust him. I trust his word. I trust his opinion and recommendation. And, we are going with you because of my relationship." And this advisor actually, when you're thinking about why someone is selling in the first place, they're selling because they want to retire, right? So they need to consult with the wealth management, the financial advisor to figure out how much funds they need to put away for retirement and so on. So this financial advisor is now an ally and is now part of the team. So part one is they help you land the deal. The second deal I had, the same thing. This referral came from a banker that does funding, and they've helped this client buy their building, help them grow their business. Both him and the client, this is another business, construction-related company, came into my office, and he was instrumental in helping us actually land the deal. And he trusted him because he helped them grow his business over the past few years. So number one, they become allies in helping you land a client. And and then number two, they become part of the team. So moving forward, as you start preparing the business for sale, in this case, the last one, the lead came from a banker, right? They're going to help run the numbers and make sure that, you know, the business can get financing for a buyer. So it's like the second part of getting a referral, having referral partners, they can help you actually sell the business.
Right.
You know, be a part of your team, as opposed to you get a cold lead. Now you have to build trust with the advisors of the business owner, right? You have to, who's your CPA, who's your attorney? You know, you have a transaction attorney, your corporate attorney, right? Who's your financial advisor? Now you're coming in cold to meet these advisors. However, if you refer it in, you're already part of the team, you're part of the family already. So that's
Right.
two takeaways. If you don't learn why you should use referrals as a referral source for deals, I just give you two tips that you should take away with.
And I feel with the referral sources too, that, those business owners are they do have professionals that they look to for guidance, and I think that's important too, because then you're talking about a business owner that values the relationship with the professionals and values getting advice and hearing what they have to say. And obviously, that makes our job easier when we're working with a business owner that is willing to listen to professionals about things, because we have to educate the seller on a lot of things. We have to direct them on a lot of things. You know how it is. You sold those businesses, you've dealt with those business owners. They know everything. They don't listen to the advisors. It makes it really hard to do the transactions. So you get referrals from referral sources. Those people are used to listening to their advisors, and that's usually why they've gotten successful and they've gotten as big as they are seeing that side referral without advice from professionals. One thing that I really think too comes down to referral sources, and I want to get your opinion on it. I think you agree because you made a quick comment. Is I feel like you don't know, and I don't, business brokers out there that are just starting out. You don't need hundreds and hundreds of referral sources. I think you said 25 for you. That's probably about what it is for me, Kyle. And I would rather have really quality, true relationships, the handful of people, rather than having quantity. The quality of the relationships is much more important than the quantity.
Yeah, 100%. There are referral sources that's going to give you, it's all about the 80-20 rule, right? There are some referral sources that are going to give you more referral opportunities than others. I feel, I've kind of like, so when I first got into this business, I started building wide, right? Speaking to as many CPAs, attorneys, financial planners, coaches, consultants, CFOs. And lately, not lately, but a couple of years ago, I started changing my focus where I want to build deeper relationships. So I want to make these referrals actually referral partners, where we have agreements in place, we have plans in place, we open up each other's Rolodexes. How can we work together more closely and be more aligned?
Right.
And that's one of my focuses that I've shifted, as opposed to having 100 CPAs that you can call upon, having 2 or 3 or 4 really good ones that you can, if a client comes to you that wants to get any services needed, as far as they need an attorney, they need a good coach or consultant, you want to recommend someone that you actually done business with or have had this business done through one of your contacts indirectly, as opposed to someone you just met one time for coffee.
Right, exactly. You want to know how they work. You want to know that they're honest and ethical, that they're extremely knowledgeable, and
Yes.
you want to know how they work. And because some of the attorneys that, I have my handful of attorneys, my handful of SBA lenders, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But you get used to working with them over and over again. And it makes the whole transaction go a lot smoother when you kind of are already on the same page, and you're not still trying to feel each other out and see how things work. I totally get you, Kyle. Totally get where you're coming from.
Right.
What's your philosophy as far as guiding a seller through the process, and how do you approach that with the seller? And maybe that's a very
Philosophy, as
strange
in
how I asked that question. What's your philosophy on managing a client's expectations through the business brokerage process, I guess? better way of putting
So
it.
yeah, I want to build trust with them up front. I want them to see me as not just as their broker, but I wanted them to see me as their coach, consultant, and trusted advisor, right? So, we have a saying in our business that, we want business is personal, right? We want that personal connections with our clients. So my philosophy is, hey, it's fine. I actually contradict myself when I speak to my clients. I actually try to talk them out of selling, selling the business, right? I'm playing devil's advocate here. I don't know. Well, is there any family in the business? Anyone? 'Cause, Jim, we do it for a long time, right? You come
Yep.
across. I had a call yesterday with a client, and I'm not going off track here, but these stories is what kind of helps, right? So at a meeting with a prospective seller, and so I'm going through my consultation with him, and he has someone that's been in the business with him for 20 years. And so I asked him, are you the sole owner of the business? He says yes. He says, is there anyone in the company that can run the business without you, or is there anyone that um, might be a good heir to you that can take over the business? And he said, no, there's no one. So I said, what about this lady that's been with you for 20 years? Oh, well, she has no interest. She doesn't have the money, and so, which is usually the case, right? That's what they say.
Yeah.
They don't have the money. So then I asked the question a different way, right? I said, if you sold the business, would she feel like entitled? Would she feel slighted? Would she feel that you didn't give her a shot at owning the business? Or would she feel, would she hold that against you? And then his tone changed. He's like, yeah, I think she might be a little bit upset, right? So it's
Mm.
like you have to kind of really probe, because I don't know if you have been there. I've definitely been there where employees have sabotage deals. It's happened a couple of times. So now I'm probing these questions with employees, with family members, and I want them to know that, hey, I'm on your side here. I'm not just here to get a
Right.
commission. I'm here for your best interest. I also take my clients on a 5-year journey, right? So where do you see yourself 5 years from now? What are your plans? Do you have grandkids? Do you plan on relocating, right? Where, are you do you go fishing? Do you go golfing? Like, what are some things? Just get them in the mindset of post sale, like where it is they want to be. And I also talk about lifestyle, right? So now they're used to, their business has been supporting their lifestyle, going to the country clubs, and I want to get them to the frame of mind that you're gonna still be able to do these things post sale, because you're gonna make sure that you're gonna sell the business on your terms, right? And you're gonna be able to still do these things. So it's like my philosophy, Jim, is like I'm a friend, right? I'm a friend, a
Yeah.
colleague, an
Yep.
advisor. I'm here for them and for their best interest. And I'm also going to kick some butt too in the process. I am going to be very serious about certain things. So they're going to get both sides of me. They're going to get the nice Kyle and get the tough Kyle too. But in the beginning, in that very first meeting, I want to learn about them, because you're going to be in a marriage with this client for at least 9 to 12 months, right? So you want to
Yep.
know, is this someone you want to work with? So asking these personal questions, and sometimes, after getting experiences, you can feel comfortable asking these questions. But this is stuff you need to know. I can't tell you how many times I had clients, um, I don't want to go into your show here, but I want to keep the tone positive. But health health issues, either with the seller, wife, spouse, kids, other family members. Health is usually one of the number one driving factors. In the case of a call I had yesterday, he was burnt out, car accident, paralyzed for 5 months. He's just physically. I'm speaking with a guy. He's just drained. Like, get
Mhm.
me out of here situation, right? So you have to be. My philosophy, Jim. You have to be empathetic to the client and their needs, because I'll tell you one thing that closes deals, Jim, is never about the money, right? It's about the emotional need, and the wants of the seller. So those very first conversations, figuring out what their plans are post sale, their emotions, their family, and what's happening in their life, you take document of that. And when you get to the closing table, that's when you bring those things back. Remember when we spoke, when you first met, you wanted to go golfing. It's been a long time since you traveled and been certain places. You start bringing it back up, and then they started like thinking about it.
Yeah, they're
Because
picturing. They're like, yeah, that's what I
many
do
times
want.
we have
Yep.
gotten deals at full price, and they get all the terms they want, and the seller still walks away and have seller's remorse. It's because they have nothing else to live for than the business. They have what you call a mistaken identity, or lost identity rather, right? Who am I now? I'm not Dr. Smith anymore. I'm not Joe the plumber anymore. What do I do? So my philosophy is getting them thinking post sale, what they're going to do after the sale is done. It's a long answer, but I think it definitely helps give the perspective on those initial conversations.
Kyle, you went a completely different way than I would have. But when you were talking, I come with the same philosophy. I may word things different than you do, but I come from the same philosophy. The relationship that you have with the seller is very, very critical. And it's not a fake relationship. You have to have a genuine, real relationship with that seller. And that's how you're going to do the best job for them. And you're going to get it across the finish line. You need to understand what's motivating them. And not just, hey, I'm looking to retire, I'm looking to do this, but really what is motivating them? What are the driving factors? Is it price? Is it money? Is it terms? Is it, really trying to understand them and getting to know them on a not just from a business relationship, but from a personal relationship. And that's way you can genuinely guide them in a much better way when you really understand who they are and what's motivating them and what they want. And we are psychiatrists at some point. I know you feel like that. We are psychiatrists, and there is a
Jim, I had a
stage. They talk
client
about,
came to me, he said, a client came to me, a deal I'm working on now. We close the end of the year. He was like, Kyle, I know you're my broker, but right now I need you to be my therapist right now. He said, I'm going through a mental breakdown. I need help. Like, I'm
wow.
scratching my head here. Okay, we're gonna get this done. But yeah, we are running an adult daycare. That's what that's what we're in. We're helping adults transition, right, from business ownership to retirement. And yeah, we have to hold some hands. And it's just part of the job.
I got a funny story too. I was selling a business. This is going back about 10 years ago. We got delayed, and it wasn't the buyer's fault. It wasn't the seller's fault. It was just things were happening with the bank, and it was just one of those things that happened. And the seller obviously wasn't happy that we had to delay closing. Well, then we had to delay it again. And I had to call up the seller and explain to the seller, and the seller yelled at me. Not yelled at me. He wasn't mad at me. He was mad at the situation, but he yelled for about an hour and a half straight on the phone, like, we got to close, blah, 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 blah. And look, he realized at the end of the day that it wasn't my fault. It wasn't the buyer's fault. I don't want to get into the particulars about the transaction, but nobody's fault. It wasn't even the bank's fault. Just things that had popped up. And after an hour and a half, I'm like, da, 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 he finally said, okay, all right, I'll send closing. I feel good about things. I'm sorry that I just had to get it out of my system. And then he was fine. He was fine the rest of the way through. I didn't say a word. I didn't try to convince him otherwise. So sometimes people don't look. You've got to remember, this is a very emotional situation for these sellers. I mean, they're babies. And I know that we say that all the time, but I don't know if people really stop to think it really is. They're starting these businesses from nothing, putting their heart and soul, their money, everything they have into it. It becomes their identity. And now they are letting all that go. And it's a huge thing. And we have to keep that in mind. And even if those like you and I have been doing this a long time, we go through the day-to-day activity. This is what we do for a living, and we do it well. It's easy to sometimes forget. This is the first time for this individual. We might realize that, but we have to stop and remember deep down this is like a big, huge deal for them. We also got to remind ourselves of that. So sorry
100%.
to get to this.
I can say it better myself.
Yeah. So what do you think separates like a good solid business broker versus a business broker that is taken to another level? Do you think?
So we did a survey recently, IBBA, right? We surveyed 500 business brokers.
Is
And
the market pulse?
one, I'm
Is
sorry?
it market pulse? Is this the market pulse?
No. So IBBA did independent research. We hired a company to do the research. I'm sharing a story. 'Cause I'm answering your question with a story because I'm giving you
We
data.
interview sellers, not brokers. You're okay. You're talking about the survey
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
done to
They
sellers,
interviewed
not brokers.
business owners,
Yeah,
business
yeah.
owners that were considering at some point selling their business. Um, and what was consistent in the problem that they had with brokers is that they wanted a broker actually know what the hell they were doing, right? That understood their craft, that understood the process. And it's like dawned to me like, why so many brokers are in the business where they don't really take the time to get educated and understand their craft. Like they are almost winging it. And, you know, most people have like a fairy tale about what we do. Um, you think of, Richard Gere and Pretty Woman, right? Like, oh, this is a really um, great business to be in. And, you make a lot of money, you get all the whatever. And it's a great business. But it's not, right? It is a good
Right.
business, but it's work to be done, right? You have to master your craft. What sets a successful broker from one that's not successful is mastering your craft. There's nowhere about it. And that's the complaints that are coming back that um I was as an attendee at a webinar for a large investment bank. I'm not going to say the name, and they had the lead investment banker for the firm interviewed three business owners. Now, this firm did not represent these three business owners in the sale. They just able to source three owners that sold their company, and all three of them had a problem with the broker that sold their business. This is all independent
Wow.
cases. They were sold by three independent brokers. One said that she did all the work, right? The deal was too big. It was over the broker's head. It was too big. He didn't understand. He was out of his element. That's probably the best way to put it. The other one says that the broker didn't set expectation as far as how much work is going to be needed to get to sell the business. And sometimes we have to, as a broker, when we talk about
Yeah.
philosophy, we have to educate the seller in the process. What's going to happen, so we can set from the beginning what the expectations are. So she didn't know it was going to be so involved. So the broker in this case did their job, but I guess he didn't educate the owner on the steps and how long it's going to be and the pitfalls that can happen. So she was thinking that, hey, I'm going to sell my business, put it in the market, it's going to be sold, and so on. And then the third one was as similar as to the first one, whereas the due diligence process took so long. It was a lot on her plate to get her numbers together and everything. And she didn't. In this case, the broker, they didn't value the business up front. They had to go backwards and go back to review. So it was a total mess. But thankfully, in those three cases, the deals got done. But what I'm sharing with you guys is that the marketplace, the small business community is saying that us brokers don't know what we're doing. We're not fully prepared. We're not fully educated, and we don't fully understand the process, or maybe not sharing the process how it should be shared with the small business owners. So to separate yourself from other brokers, right? Number one, get educated. Number two, working with maybe have a CBI designation that ups your level to another level. And I always advise newer brokers to work with a firm, an established firm, to learn. And I share the same thing with business owners that want to buy a business. So you want to buy a janitorial company. What do you know about running a janitorial business? What do you know about running a facilities management business? What do you know about HVAC? Why don't you go shadow someone in that business for a few years, right? Understand the inner workings of it, right? And then come back to me and then buy a business, right? So it's the same thing as a broker. You want to learn. That's why it's important through this association or any association you choose and any peer groups, you know, reach out to other folks that's been there, done that, and I can shorten the learning curve. So two things: education and gain access to resources and other folks that have done it. In my opinion, and I may be wrong, I'm just sharing my personal opinion, is what separates the good brokers from the ones that are just winging it and moonlighting in the business.
Oh, that was some really good insight. That was fantastic. I was like on the edge of my seat when you were talking. That was really good insight. If you look at it, the national average is that only 10 to 20% of businesses for sale actually sell. And that's crazy. Like I could not practice that way. And I would say the majority of the IBBA members far sell that in owners in the CBI. IBBA members actually have a CBI or way higher than that. But it does show how few there's this industry. It's still we've come a long way. I feel like there's still a long way for us to come, and as we get more people joining the IBBA that are brokers that are not IBBA, kind of spread and put all that in there. Things like working outside your element. We're talking about that one case where the deal size was just too big for that broker, or even if it's an industry that's so out of the realm. And I feel like a good business broker can sell almost any kind of business out there, whether they sell that business or not. But at the same time, there might be an industry that is completely way different than they ever did before. Maybe it's not something that they take on. That's something to send to another broker. I think you really need to stay in your lane and what and obviously grow. You have to keep pushing yourself. But if you're used to selling $100,000, pizza restaurant, don't take on an engagement where you're selling a $30 million business. It's way out of your league. You're actually going to do harm for your seller. You're going to do harm for the buyer potentially, and you could really kill the deal. You just said a lot in there as you were talking. I was just like, yeah, you're right. You're right.
So Jim, my meeting after this. So I have a local broker in my backyard here, and they're potentially to land, a large HVAC company, and they called on us for help. They want to get the assignment, and they feel they'd be a little bit over their head. So we're going to work together on that. And I've done it both ways too. I had brokers refer me deals. I've referred out deals. That's why it's good to be part of a network, because you may be an
Yep.
expert, let's say in car washes, or you may know someone is an expert in car washes, and that's not what you do. Like I don't do car washes. I refer all that out. So it's good. It's good to network with your peers. Share information, share advice, and
Yeah, and there's no shame
I
in
just
it. There's no shame in it. Like I refer out, but some once in a while I get a call from somebody that's got a business that's going to sell for $20-30 million. That's not what I do, Kyle. It's not what I do.
Yeah.
I refer that out. I
Yeah.
stay with what I do and how I do it. And I think that's
Yeah.
the key to being successful is kind
Yeah.
of not being all over the place. You have any other final thoughts that you could leave our fellow business brokers with?
Final thoughts. I could probably rehammer the thoughts I did before. This is a simple. So I give 3 tips.
Okay.
Right. Number 1, get educated. Right. Wherever you choose to. Final thoughts is learn your. I'm just going to rehammer what we said before. Learn your craft. Right. I'll give a quick summary takeaway. Learn your craft. Be part of a network of brokers, a mastermind, your local conference, regional conference. Tap into your local trade associations and so on. See what other folks are doing. And the third thing is just take action. Get out there. Make those phone calls. Send those emails. And the fourth thing I would say, Jim. So we had a lot of conferences this year. And there were 2 major takeaways there was a lot of them, but since we're at the tail end here, 2 major takeaways. One we already discussed is it talked about, opportunities. Where do you get leads from and businesses from? So referrals, right? That was a big takeaway. Focus on referral opportunities. The second takeaway was to start focusing on a niche or vertical. So, for example, landscaping, plumbing, trucking. Start, put it upon yourself to pick a vertical that you have some passion about, some interest in, and start learning that vertical and attend that vertical trade association. You will be the only business broker in the room, right? And then you can start giving courses, doing seminars, doing talks, and you can pretty much craft your entire message, your copy towards trucking companies, pool maintenance, wherever the case may be. Start with one first, become the expert in that one, and then you can build it out. But I would say a great takeaway, Jim, is to focus on a vertical, like still do general business brokerage, like continue doing that. But as you expand your craft and you become more experienced, you want to start getting some deeper knowledge in one particular sector, and then two, and then three. For me, was logistics. That's where I started, and HVAC. I happen to like distribution. I like easy businesses, Jim. I don't like the too complex stuff. I mean, I like manufacturing a little bit and tech, but like I personally, I just love distribution companies. Like it's really simple. They get product, it comes in the door, it goes out the door. It's like it's not that much.
Yeah, right.
Really simple. A buyer can come in and pick it up pretty quickly, and usually they own their real estate as well. So I just give you guys my secret sauce. Okay, I like businesses that have property, and it gives you opportunity to sell more and provide more services. So just pick a space and focus on it. So I give you 3 or 4. I think I give you, Jim.
Yeah, I think that's excellent. I'm glad you brought up the vertical. I'm big. I think the verticals is going to be huge moving forward. I know more and more brokers that are looking to pick a vertical, and there's so many benefits to that. That's a whole webinar on its own. But
Yeah.
I think the borders have kind of broken down since COVID. People are more open to virtual meetings and things like that. I think that we're not just stuck in our geographical area like we were 20, 25 years ago, and you can get into a vertical and you can get really good and you can sell those type of businesses all over the country and be very successful and just gain a really deep knowledge in that and get really, really good at just selling that. Actually, that's a topic that I want to be covering in the future is about verticals. I'm a
Awesome.
big believer that that's going to be the future of business brokerage.
Awesome.
And I tell you too, Kyle, we're talking about this. We're talking about only 10 to 20% of the businesses for sale actually sell. And, when you were talking about education and mentors, finding a mentor and doing education, keep trying to be better at your craft and mastering your craft. We need more brokers out there to master the craft. And I'm just saying we need more brokers out there in general. Right now, I feel like we're in the golden age of business brokerage. We're right now seeing the greatest transfer of personal financial wealth the world has ever seen. And that's the baby boomer generation retiring. 40% of all business owners in the United States were born before 1964. They're going to be looking to retire. We are in the golden age, and for those brokers that, master their craft like you're talking about, really get to know it, build their network with other brokers they can lean on, build their team of advisors like we were talking about earlier with the CPAs, attorneys, SBA lenders, leverage technology, and you really master your craft all the way around. We are in the golden age of business brokerage. I really believe that.
100%. I agree. I'm all with you here on this one. 100%.
Cool.
That's why
Kyle,
you have to have that
go
staying
ahead.
power.
Yeah,
You
you
have to
do.
have that staying power is important.
And I think it goes,
You,
and I don't think, and
how
we
many
probably should
brokers
say it. I
you've
think,
seen? How many
go
brokers
ahead.
you've seen come and go?
Yeah, a lot, a lot, a lot, a lot, a
Yeah.
lot.
I'm sorry, you were saying?
No, I was just saying, we probably shouldn't need to say it, but I think the critical things too is that you just need to be honest and you need to be ethical and look out for the best.
Yes.
The best thing for your buyers and sellers and not concentrate on the commission, concentrate on doing the best job for them and, making their life dreams come true. And then in return, it'll happen for you without even trying yourself. You just concentrate on them and what's most important to them.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle, I really appreciate you joining today. I want to have you on again in the future because I feel like I feel like there's so much more we could have talked about. And I love anytime I get a chance to sit down and talk to you, I always enjoy it. I love kicking ideas back and forth with you. I said in the beginning of the show, I really respect you for, what you've done in your own practice. I respect you for being a leader in our industry. And I really, I'm honored to call you my friend. And I'm glad that you're a friend of mine, Kyle. Thank you for being on the show.
I appreciate that, my friend. You don't know how much I admire and look up to you and all what you've been doing. I mean, this takes a lot of work, right? Putting a show on, but it's important what you're doing, right? You're actually creating you have a platform and providing education to brokers and business owners. I mean, that's a lot. I mean, you've been doing a lot of great things in Florida, and you've been a great resource for me and many others. Yeah, I'm looking forward to our next chat. Maybe we could reverse the roles, Jim. Maybe you'll be in the hot seat the next time because I want to learn. I want to learn from you, man. You've been doing this longer than I have, so I want to get the knowledge that's inside your head. But this talk is great. I mean, we didn't go into much of mechanics because I feel that this is more of a mental game, more of a mindset thing. I mean, the how to's you can go. Anyone could go on Google, how to sell a business. Go look it up and learn the steps. But understanding the mindset of a small business owner, what goes through their mind when they're planning for retirement, and the mindset of a broker now starting the business, the tools they need. So this is a good segment, but we can always come back and talk about nuts and bolts and another
No,
time.
and
But
I
I
agree with you.
appreciate
I
the opportunity
sometimes,
to, yeah.
oh, I'm so sorry, Kyle. I'm so bad at it. I'm always cutting people off. I thought you were done.
No,
But I
it's your
agree with
show,
you.
man.
It's
I'm
not,
good.
I agree with you. It's not, it's about the technical, how to add backs and how to, recast, balance sheet and profit and loss statement, how to do a problem selling price, blah, blah, blah. But, I'm glad this took the turn that it did because, the abstract type things are extremely important in getting things done. And that's why I wish we had more time because I feel like we could just talk about, more topics that are more abstract, another 2 or 3 hours. I'd love to have on the show in the future, Kyle.
Definitely.
But
I'm looking
thank you
forward
so
to it. But
much.
thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And fellow business brokers, if you're getting anything out of this series, I'd really appreciate it if you gave me a thumbs up or comment and definitely subscribe. But I appreciate you joining. And until next time, take care.